My friend, there are seasons in life when the waiting feels endless, when heaven's silence grows heavy and the doors you've been knocking on for years still won't open. You've prayed, you've fasted, you've cried behind closed doors where no one could witness your pain. And maybe tonight it feels as if God has overlooked you. But I'm here to remind you of something profound. God's timing isn't just approaching, it's about to move you to tears. Not tears of sorrow, but of awe as you realize music. He never left you for a moment. The very thing that once shattered your heart will soon be the reason it overflows with joy. Because when God acts, He never acts halfway. He moves in ways that make you fall to your knees and declare only God could have done this. There's a divine mystery wrapped in God's timing. You see, He doesn't operate by human clocks or calendars. We count by seconds and hours, but God moves by purpose. We plan by months and years, but God plans through eternity. He knows when you're ready, even when you think you are. He knows when the road is safe, even when you demand to walk it now. Sometimes He restrains you not to punish you, but to preserve you. That delay you've resented, music, might be the very barrier keeping you from disaster. That prayer left unanswered might be His way of protecting your destiny. Music. You think you're waiting on God, but often God is waiting on you to grow, to mature, to release what you cling to, and to trust what you cannot yet see. Every tear you've cried, every setback you faced, every door that's closed against you, none of it has been wasted. God has been shaping your character, fortifying your faith, and preparing you for something far beyond what you imagined. There are blessings that appear swiftly, and there are blessings that take time, because some are too powerful to be given out of season. When God says it's time, nothing can hinder what He has ordained. Not people, not failures, not even time itself. You might think you missed your moment, but God is not limited by lost opportunities. He can revive what seemed dead and breathe life into what others declared finished. There's a reason you've been hidden. There's a reason it's been quiet. God conceals before He reveals. He quiets the noise so your heart can learn the rhythm of His voice. Many of you are in that hidden season now, feeling unseen and forgotten, but hear me. God does His greatest work in the dark. A seed must be buried before it can grow. It must be covered before it breaks through the soil. You may feel buried, but you're actually planted. And when the appointed moment arrives, you won't just grow, you'll bloom. And when you bloom, it won't be small. It will be something so radiant, it will leave others speechless. Something that brings you to tears of gratitude because you'll recognize that every moment of waiting had purpose. God's timing is flawless. When the sun rises and sets, when the stars move in perfect harmony, when the waves know their limits, everything follows His divine order. Yet we still wrestle to trust Him with ours. We ask, God, why is it taking so long? But if we could see the full masterpiece, we'd realize that God is arranging every thread, aligning every connection, and positioning every event to fulfill what He promised. The things you've been praying for aren't rejected. They're being refined. And when they finally arrive, they won't be delayed. They'll appear right on time. God never hurries, yet He's never late. Some of you have been standing in faith for years, holding on when everyone else told you to let go. You're in loneliness, betrayal, and exhaustion that no one else could understand. But what you don't realize is that your endurance has touched heaven. God has noticed your steadfastness. He's seen those nights when you stayed faithful, even when quitting seemed easier. And when He moves on your behalf, it will happen suddenly and gloriously. You'll be overwhelmed in holy awe. That's why I say God's timing will move you to tears, because you'll see the waiting was never punishment. It was preparation for something only God could design. Music. Don't let the silence shake your faith. Don't let the delay make you settle. You might be tempted to take control and make things happen your own way, but anything built on impatience will crumble. Allow God to construct music it for you. Let Him establish it. His plans are steady. His plans are peaceful. When God opens the door, no one can close it. And when He declares now, everything shifts. People who once ignored you will start to notice. Opportunities that turned you away will come searching for Kai. Music you. Blessings you thought were gone forever will return multiplied because God's yes is unstoppable. It transforms everything. Maybe right now you're thinking, I've wasted too many years. I've lost too much time. No, you haven't. God can redeem time. What takes others 10 years, He can do for you in 1. What's been broken for decades, He can restore in a moment. You serve a God who specializes in divine acceleration. He doesn't just repair, He multiplies. That's the power of His timing. It doesn't just return what you lost, it gives you beyond what you ever dreamed, but He releases it when your heart is mature enough to handle it. You see, God isn't interested in giving you blessings that will break you. He wants to fast you with vetri, this to fast, this to fast. Things that will sustain you. So if He's still preparing you, be thankful. It means He's crafting you for something extraordinary. Every delay carries divine purpose. Some delays protect you from premature exposure. Others build strength in your character. Some humble you before promotion. And others exist simply so that God can reveal Himself in a way that leaves no room for human explanation. There are blessings so divine that God will never allow them to come through human hands. They must come straight from Him so that when they arrive, you'll know without a shadow of doubt it was the hand of God alone. And when that moment comes, tears will stream down your face. Your knees will touch the ground and your heart will whisper, God, you did it. Many people give up right before God's timing begins to unfold. They let discouragement take over. They let impatience steal their miracle. But I'm telling you, don't stop now. Don't turn away when you're this close. You might not see movement above the surface, but beneath the soil, roots are growing, foundations are being strengthened, music, and God is aligning every single step. The longer the wait, the greater the impact. When God finally unveils what He's been shaping, you'll understand why He took His time. Look back over your journey. Those moments you labeled as delays were actually divine detours designed to protect you. The heartbreaks that nearly broke you were redirections that preserved your destiny. You couldn't see it then, but His hand was guiding every detail. And now, as God begins to unfold what He's been preparing, you'll realize why certain people couldn't stay, why some plans collapse, and why specific seasons had to end. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection towards something higher. You thought you were losing, but you were being repositioned for a blessing that matched your calling, not your comfort. When God's appointed time arrives, it often comes dressed in the ordinary. It won't always come with fanfare or thunder. Sometimes it's a quiet call, a sudden opportunity, or an unshakable peace within your spirit whispering, "This is the moment." And in that instant, everything shifts. The waiting ceases. The puzzle pieces connect, and your soul knows God's hand is moved. That's when the tears fall. Not the tears of pain, but the tears of realization when your heart recognizes divine fulfillment. You won't cry because of the struggle anymore. You'll cry because of the beauty of what God has done. You may not see it yet, but the same God who allowed your pain is the one who will turn it into purpose. Nothing in your life has been wasted. Music, every scar, every loss, every disappointment will become undeniable evidence of how deeply God redeems. You'll look back and say, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am. Music, you'll witness how He transformed what was meant to break you into the very thing that elevated you. That's the power of His timing. It turns your pain into strength, your waiting into wonder, your tears into testimonies. So hold on. Don't despise the process. The very thing you've been praying for might already be in motion. God could be aligning the right people, shifting the right circumstances, and music preparing the perfect moment. You can't see it, but heaven is busy working. And when it finally happens, it will be so swift, so breathtaking, that you'll be left in awe. You'll realize that while you were doubting, God was designing. While you were waiting, He was working. While you were crying, He was creating something far beyond what you ever imagined. And when it all unfolds, your soul will overflow with such deep gratitude that words will fail. Only tears will speak. There's coming a moment when you'll finally understand why God made you. Wait, it won't just make sense. It will lead you into worship. You'll realize that every closed door had purpose. Every delay carried divine design. And every tear was preparing your soul for indescribable joy. That's why you must never your timing with anyone else's. What God is crafting in your life is one of a kind. Others may receive their blessing sooner, but yours is being hand-shaped by God Himself. When it arrives, it will fit flawlessly. You won't have to chase it. You won't have to fight for it. You'll simply walk into it, and it will feel like it was always waiting for you. Some of you need to hear this. Stop thinking you've been forgotten. You haven't been overlooked. You've been set apart. God's delay is not denial. He's still writing your story. And when the next chapter unfolds, it will be so breathtaking that the pain of the previous ones will fade into purpose. You'll see how the waiting fortified your endurance, how the silence deepened your faith, and how the loneliness purified your heart. When the promise comes, pride will have no place in you. Instead, you'll be humbled knowing that without God, none of it could have ever happened. So if you find yourself in the middle of uncertainty whispering, "When, God? How much longer?" remember this, timing is everything. God's plan is never rushed, music never delayed, it's always perfect. The moment He says, "Now," everything will align. Every unanswered prayer, every restless night, every hidden tear will suddenly make sense. You'll weep not from pain, but from awe, because you'll finally see how faithful He has been all along. Stay steadfast. Stay expectant. Keep your heart pure and your spirit humble. Don't let bitterness block your blessing. Don't let impatience push you to settle. God's promise is still alive. And when it manifests, it will exceed every expectation, greater, deeper, and richer than anything you've ever prayed for. You may have thought you were overlooked, but all this time, God has been watching, orchestrating, and preparing the perfect moment to bless you beyond measure. And when that moment arrives, your tears will speak louder than words, declaring that God's timing truly makes all things beautiful. There comes a moment in every believer's walk when faith must endure beyond feelings. You might not feel strong. You might not see results. You might not hear answers. But faith was never built on sight. It was designed for silence. It was made for the in-between seasons. When nothing makes sense and everything in you wants to surrender, that's where the real battle takes place. Not in the noise, but in the quiet trust that whispers, "God, I still believe you know exactly what you're doing." That kind of faith touches heaven. That kind of faith moves mountains. Music. Because when you refuse to let time weaken your trust, you align yourself with the rhythm of God's will. And once you're aligned with His will, His timing begins to unfold with unstoppable force. There are seasons when God strips things away not to destroy you, but to rebuild you with divine accuracy. He removes distractions so you can recognize His voice again. He allows emptiness so your heart can hunger for Him more deeply. He closes doors not to restrict you, but to redirect you towards something sacred. Sometimes the greatest blessing is the door that never opened. One day you'll understand that if God had said yes when you begged Him, you would have been confined to something far too small for your destiny, music. But because He said no, He safeguarded your future. That's why you must never confuse delay with denial. God's silence is often the sound of divine construction. Behind the quiet, heaven is crafting a masterpiece on your behalf. You may not see it, but God's timing frequently works through supernatural reversals. He can shift circumstances in ways that make no sense to the natural mind. Music. The one who was ignored becomes the one who's chosen. The situation that once seemed impossible suddenly tilts in your favor. Years of dryness are followed by such abundance that it leaves you speechless. And when it happens, you'll weep not out of weakness, but out of revelation, because you'll finally understand that every loss had purpose. The tears you shed in secret will become the story of victory you share openly. You'll stand in the very place where you once broke down and whispered, "God, you knew exactly what you were doing." Tadr Chai Chi. God's music timing doesn't just bless you, it reveals His nature. It shows you that He is never random, never careless, never unsure. Music, He is intentional. He is accurate. Every second of your life has been scripted by His hand. You're not living by luck. Music. You're walking by divine design. That's why you must never compare your journey to anyone else's. Music. What God is unfolding in your life is uniquely tailored for you. You're not behind schedule. You're perfectly positioned for God's next move. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. Their story is theirs. And yours is being written by the same author who never makes mistakes. Some of you are standing in a waiting season that feels endless. The promise seems far away, and the pressure feels unbearable. But waiting is not wasted time. It's sacred time. It's where your roots grow deep. It's where your endurance is forged. If you rush the process, you will miss the strength that comes from being prepared. God doesn't only want to give you the blessing, He wants to ensure the blessing doesn't destroy you. He's not just preparing your future, He's preparing you to carry it. You may think you're standing still, but God is refining you in ways unseen. And one day, when the appointed time comes, He will release everything you prayed for, and you'll finally understand why He took His time. Music. When the breakthrough arrives, it will carry the weight of every prayer you've whispered. It will hold the fragrance of every tear you've cried. It will be saturated with endurance and grace. And it will be something you could never have built on your own. You'll know it was God music because the blessing will bring peace, not pressure, fulfillment, not confusion. When God does it, you won't have to force or manipulate anything. The door will open effortlessly, and what's meant for you will remain because it was established by divine authority. That's the beauty of God's timing. It accomplishes what human effort never could. You see, timing is the language of trust. Music. When you trust God's timing, you're declaring, I believe you know more than I do. Music. That level of surrender invites divine intervention because God doesn't move in pride. He moves through faith. Faith says, even if it takes longer than I imagined, I still believe you're working. Faith says, even if others seem to advance ahead of me, I'll stay where you planted me until you say go. And when you cling to that kind of unwavering faith, God starts moving mountains on your behalf. He begins to shift what once seemed immovable, aligning people, doors, and opportunities perfectly in your favor. Some of the greatest blessings in your life are waiting on one thing, divine timing. You might believe you're ready, but God knows what still needs to mature. He knows what still needs healing. He knows what still must be released. So He waits not to punish you, but because He loves you too deeply to give you something before you're prepared to carry it. You wouldn't place a sharp sword in the hands of a child. You'd wait until they've learned discipline. In the same way, God waits until your character can sustain your calling. And when that season arrives, the release will be undeniable. There's a sacred calm that comes before divine manifestation, the stillness before the outpouring of blessing. When life feels quiet and motionless, don't mistake that silence for absence. That's when heaven is closest. God often works in stillness because silence sharpens your spiritual hearing. When you can't trace His hand, you learn to trust His heart. And when you trust Him, you position yourself for miracles that defy explanation. God doesn't need noise to move. He doesn't need recognition, validation, or applause. He works in the unseen, and when He finally reveals what He's been building, it will speak louder than words. Some blessings require endurance because they carry eternal significance. Instant blessings fade, but those formed through waiting endure. You might not recognize it yet, but God is writing a testimony that will outlive your pain. You'll stand before others in their own struggle and say, I've been where you are. I know the ache of waiting, and I know the beauty of seeing God come through. That's the kind of wisdom only time can create. That's why you must never despise the waiting. It's the training ground for divine strength. Many cry out for God's promises, but resist His process. They want the victory without the refining. But the process is where the glory is shaped. You music can't rush purification. You can't avoid surrender. You can't shortcut faith. The fires you face are not meant to destroy you. They're refining you. They're burning away fear, pride, and doubt so that when the appointed moment comes, you can carry the blessing with humility and grace. God's delays aren't designed to break your spirit. They're designed to break your dependence on everything but Him. When you reach the place where you can say, even if nothing changes, I will still trust God. That's when everything begins to shift. Every time you thought you were forgotten, heaven was watching. Every time you wanted to give up, God was whispering, hold on, I'm not done yet. Every silent season carries divine intent. Some blessings come after years of being misunderstood. Others come after stretches of complete isolation. And when they finally arrive, they carry the unmistakable fragrance of divine validation. The same people who once doubted you will have no choice but to admit it was God's hand on your life. That's what makes His timing so powerful. It silences every voice that ever rose against you. Don't resist the waiting, embrace it. Don't curse the delay, learn from it. The very thing you see as a setback might be the very tool God is using to set you free. When you surrender your timeline, you make room for His peace music to enter. And when you walk in that peace, you give God permission to move without resistance. You don't need to know how it will unfold, you just need to believe that it will, because God's word never fails. His promises never expire. If He spoke it, it will happen. But it will happen at the appointed time. Right now, some of you are standing at the threshold of that timing. You've weathered storms. You've fought unseen battles. You've held on to faith when no one else believed in you. You've prayed when your heart felt too heavy to pray. Music and heaven has witnessed every single moment. The depth of your struggle is proof of the magnitude of your coming blessing. God never allows deep pain without a deeper purpose. The very thing that once made you weep will soon make you raise your hands in gratitude. And when it happens, it won't just shift your situation. It will transform your heart. It will rebuild your trust, rekindle your faith, and remind you that God has always been faithful. You'll finally see that He was never withholding. He was aligning. He wasn't delaying. He was refining. Every detail, every delay, every detour was divinely orchestrated. And when you finally walk into what He's prepared, it will bring you to tears. Not because you doubted, but because you'll see how deeply He loved you through it all. God's timing brings clarity where confusion once lived, beauty where ashes once remained, strength where weakness once ruled, and peace where worry once reigned. This is the divine rhythm of life. We weep, we wait, and then we witness. The same tears that once fell in pain will one day fall in praise. The same heart that once trembled in uncertainty will overflow with revelation. Music, that is the wonder of God's timing. It turns shadows into light, delays into destiny, and heartbreak into testimony. So don't lose hope. What's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. What's coming is worth every moment of waiting. You won't be disappointed when God unveils what He's been preparing. You won't regret the time it took, because when it happens, you'll realize He was never late. He was crafting the perfect moment for you to receive a blessing that would forever change your life. And when that moment comes, you'll weep not out of pain, but out of reverence. You'll cry because you'll see how perfectly everything aligned. You'll cry because you'll finally understand that every unanswered prayer was leading you to this place. You'll cry because you'll feel God's presence so profoundly that words will fail. And in those tears you will find peace, because they will not be tears of sorrow, but tears of divine fulfillment. That's what happens when God's timing unfolds. It moves you to tears, not because of what you lost, but because of what you gained: faith, resilience, and the undeniable evidence that God's plan has always been flawless. There are moments when life pushes you to the very edge, when your strength wanes and your prayers seem unanswered. You've done all you know how to do, yet the silence lingers. But silence never means abandonment. Music. It's within the quiet that God performs His deepest work. The roots of faith grow strongest in stillness. When you can't feel Him, He is nearer than ever. When nothing appears to move, He's rearranging everything behind the curtain. God's timing is never reckless. He doesn't delay out of neglect. He delays with divine intention. And when His plan finally unfolds, it reveals not only His power, but His perfect love for you.